Young ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all. Once again, you are welcome here on the Tribune of Awakening Consciousness. This is the headline news. All day long it's been the headline. It's making headlines in Western media. It's making headlines in all the media. This massive strike that Russia has just carried out on the night of March 6 to 7, 2025, on Ukrainian territory. That is to say, Russia has just started a pace, begun a pace so high that the pace is elevated. The world is asking questions. Donald Trump himself, who supports Russia, in the context of future agreements and everything that follows, is himself overwhelmed. President Donald Trump is overwhelmed. Volodymyr Zelensky, who was reluctant about everything, Volodymyr Zelensky himself, so overwhelmed, is urgently calling for peace. I tell you, it's the height of it. In the context of this video conference, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are going to talk about. But before continuing, I ask you to share this video conference in all groups. Share it, and thank you for following it until the end. Share it as much as possible. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell. This allows you to no longer miss global news. That's what it's about. So let's dive into the depths. It was during the night from Thursday to Friday, from March 6 to 7, yesterday, night, therefore, early morning. You know Russia, when it wants to do big things, it does them at night. So, Ukraine was targeted by at least 58 missiles. 58 missiles. 58 missiles. Something that hadn't happened in a very long time. 58 missiles plus 194 drones. Ukraine was visited. We thought that these times of calm, where we are preparing for the advent of peace, would somewhat stop or calm the fervor. But it's quite the opposite that we feel from Russia. Very determined. And in the context of this attack, what happened was several Ukrainian gas and energy infrastructures were targeted, and Russia had to achieve its targets. Russia hit its targets. Even if France wants to take advantage of this situation to do a little self-promotion, France wants to take advantage to do a little self-promotion. Since the Mirage 2000, which are types of aircraft capable of blocking the path of drones and missiles, these Mirage 2000s that France had promised to Ukraine have arrived. A part of them arrived just a month ago. And so, France, which is adopting a stance of wanting to challenge Russia, with all the speeches, all the discourse that Emmanuel Macron has recently delivered. They say that thanks to these fighter jets, F-16, the Mirage 2000s that were involved, they have managed, according to them, to stop the Russian drones, the Russian missiles. Even if they haven't managed to stop everything, they have succeeded in stopping some. So France is taking pride. The Ukrainian authorities also obviously say that France has played a role. In any case, the French equipment has played its part. So, what's worse is that for something like 24 hours, the Ukrainian soldiers have been in total blindness. America has blinded them against Russia by having to cut off what is called the supply of intelligence. And you are surely aware, all the geographical coordinates that were provided, that were used on the ground by the Ukrainian soldiers, as well as the NATO soldiers present on the territory. These coordinates were directly provided by America and shared with that major intelligence service known as the Five Eyes. You know, they have this large structure composed of the British and others who have a vast information network, who provide intelligence. It is thanks to these Five Eyes that the conflict continued in Ukraine. They continue to know where the Russian troops are located. Once Russian troops deployed, they are informed. They move from a place, they're going that way. And thus, the Ukrainian soldiers act. Despite everything, they have never been able to destroy. They have never been able to achieve a victory. So, in the absence, during the last 24 hours, when Russia knows that now they no longer have access to information, even when the missiles come, they cannot see, unless it is at very close kilometers. Russia takes advantage of this situation and sends missiles massively. I do mean massively. The damage is enormous. So it is during this period that they will be able to stop what? That is a decoy. It's a lie. They have certainly, by coincidence, been able to stop some, but it wasn't for everything. So, what needs to be said? Here is a very worrying situation that caused panic. Volodymyr Zelensky. So, in a statement from the Ukrainian Air Force, the information is given. They say they shot down 134 SOR of these targets, that is, all the drones and missiles that came, 58 missiles and 194 drones. They were able to shoot down 134, including 34 missiles and 100 drones. That means 194 drones were shot down, which means 94 reached their target. And when Russia wants to target, it targets evacuated. Indeed. And it has the geographical coordinates. It goes directly, and these are types of weapons that Russia possesses, which are of unimaginable intelligence. High precision weapons. So, this is the statement from the Ukrainian Air Force. And so, from there, Zelensky is very overwhelmed. Zelensky calls for renewal, that is, Zelensky calls for a truce. He went on the X network. He goes on the X network. He renews his call for a truce. Yes. He renews his call for a truce. Something he had refuted. It took just these last 3 days for him to change his mind. And so he makes this his leitmotif, his path. So, according to the official information, according to what we have seen, Zelensky, he says this. He reiterates his call for a truce. He says that the first steps to restore real peace should be to address the sole source of this war. That is to say, Russia. Here is what he wrote on the X network. By requesting a ban on the use of missiles, long-range drones, and aerial bombs, he continued, he says this, we support the idea of establishing a ceasefire as quickly as possible and to cease attacks in the air and at sea as a confidence-building measure between the parties. Here is Zelensky, who, regrettably, is now seeking confidence-building measures with Russia. He wants a ceasefire, a ban on attacks in the air and at sea, to see how Russia will comply, so that they themselves can at least catch a breath. And meanwhile, Donald Trump is feeling dizzy. Donald Trump is feeling dizzy. He doesn't understand, that is to say, in the same way that it's swirling in his head, it's swirling in Vladimir Putin's head as well. Yes, we are talking about peace. There you go. It's necessary to re-establish contact between Russia and America, but that doesn't stop Russia from continuing its special military operation in Ukraine. Russia continues. And just as Macron stepped out to speak, as did the 27 countries of the European Union, to say that they want to rearm against Russia, so Russia pressed the pound key to demonstrate that we are ready for anything. We are truly ready. So on the X network, Donald Trump spoke out. He says, meaning he is so overwhelmed by the strikes he is considering, or what does he say, by the way, if I can find it? Donald Trump is considering new sanctions. He says, I'm considering new sanctions. Strong. Against Russia, whether it's tariffs, etc. So, this is a new shocking statement from Donald Trump, who seeks friendship with Russia, but says he is considering sanctioning Russia, as if he didn't know that Russia was already under major sanctions even before he came to power. So what is going to happen? Maybe it's a game? America should not appear too submissive to Russia. So he too should do something, at least a statement to show that yes, Russia is also overstepping. What remains clear, Vladimir Putin has been very clear. We are extending a hand, we are ready for peace, but nothing stops the special military operation. Since at the moment there is no ceasefire agreement, there is no peace agreement. And all of this is also Zelensky's fault, because after the recent meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, between the American delegation and the Russian delegation, there was a beginning of calm. Things were starting to calm down. But Europe had to rise and start talking nonsense again. That's why Russia said, well, these people don't want peace. We're going to scratch them a little more. This is certainly what justifies this massive strike. And so, ladies and gentlemen, having reached this point, I have nothing left to say, but thank you all for your contributions to the realization of this video conference through shares and comments. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for inviting your friends to subscribe. I will be back shortly with more news. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.